All right, welcome to episode 3 of the Pursuit Hockey discussion with your host, Austin Hoey, and Carson Johnstone. This week, we're going to be talking to Jon Stephenson. He has had a long, storied career in junior, college, and a little bit of pro, as well as now coaching in prep down in Connecticut. We're also going to chat about European junior hockey and what your options are as a European player when you come over to the States. So, with all that being said, let's get right into our interview with Jon Stephenson.
I'm fired up.
All right.
Me too. I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited.
All right. Well, we're joined by Jon Stephenson here. So how's it going, Jon?
Everything's good, boys. Nice to be with you.
Right on. So, Jon, you've played in a lot of different leagues throughout your career, whether it be junior, college, pro, and now you're taking on more of a coaching role. If you could just give the listeners at home maybe just a brief synopsis of kind of your career, playing career, and then now into your kind of coaching role.
Yeah. So, I grew up in Winnipeg, born and raised there, and really wasn't a strong hockey player. But started at age 5, wasn't a strong hockey player for a large part of my life, but I really enjoyed the sport. I had one older brother that played since he was 5 years old, same type of thing, and sort of paved the way for me a little bit, and so I was always around it. My dad, my family was really a hockey family and a sports family, and so we were always at the rink or doing something, playing baseball or football or just being active in general. And like I said, I kind of played some lower level hockey up until I was about 16 years old. But actually, to back up a little bit, when I was 15, I got cut from my A1 team, which I had made this team about 3 or 4 years in a row, and I had got cut from it. And it was kind of, looking back, it was a bit of a breaking point. So I played the 1 year. It was basically B-level hockey at 15 years old. And I grew a lot that summer, actually, too, and really just stuck with it. And I was always just doing camps and working on my game. And that really helped me excel to the next level, and ended up playing AA at age 16 and then AAA at age 17 and junior from there. And I played 3 years of junior, mostly junior A and junior B, in Manitoba and Saskatchewan mostly.
So, Johnny,
a little bit in Ontario. What's up?
Just to kind of stop you there, I guess. Obviously you're going to get there, but you must have kind of pulled a lot from your experiences just playing, kind of running the whole gambit there, and you must bring a lot of that into what you teach these young guys as a coach, I could imagine, right? Just before we get too far past it, because that's quite the experience, right? Working hard and thinking you're on a team and then getting cut and having to, make that choice to just kind of keep battling, right? I'm sure that, was something that was definitely, like you said, kind of a big turning point in your life, right?
Yeah, it was, honest to God, I remember so vividly when I heard that I had been cut from this team. Obviously to an outsider, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it was, that when you're, 15 years old and you're looking forward to playing with your buddies and, at a certain level, and you'd been comfortable for a while, and then it's something like that happens, and it's really it's kind of earth shattering to a point, not to sound dramatic, but it was such a big ordeal for me. And I found out by one of my classmates happened to just pass me in the hallway at high school. I think it was in grade 9. And he's like, yeah, you, because his dad had run the tryouts. So instead of, them officially giving me a call, he happened to just pass me in the hallway. And he was just being nice. He wasn't trying to be an ass or anything. But he told me, he's like, yeah, you'd been cut and you're going to play on the B team. And I honestly, I walked out of the parking lot, and it was like think of the most melodramatic like movie scene, like just staring off into the distance. Like I was so upset. And I even remember like my parents tried to get me on a different A team in a different area, and it didn't work out. And I guess all in all, I'm kind of glad it didn't. I know that sounds a little crazy, but it really was humbling. And I just, like I said, I just always loved hockey, so I just kind of stuck with it. Like I didn't ever think of quitting. It was always just, and it was frustrating. Don't get me wrong, because I felt like I should have been somewhere else.
Yeah.
I really felt, maybe entitled in a way. And it was just the lesson, the humility that it taught me was just invaluable. I still draw from it today. Still too. It's like
your passion. Like your passion kind of pulled you through, I guess, right? And like I guess you were getting there, right? Like you said, you ended up playing some junior after that. So I guess I could let you continue that.
Yeah. So I kind of continued on there, and then played some junior, a little bit all over. Yeah. And I ended up settling into a college where I played 2 years in Minot, North Dakota. In an ACHA D1 division. And then after 2 years of that, I transferred to a school in Alberta called Portage College, and that's obviously where we met.
Yeah.
Scarce. And and that was those were awesome times too. I mean, college was a great time. And from there, my last year, actually, the year after you left, my last year, I played for a coach named Nate Bedford, and he recommended me to a couple teams in Europe where I played a couple years. I played 1 year in Lithuania and 1 year in Serbia. And again, like living there, very humbling. Like it's, I remember calling my dad one of the first days I was in Lithuania, and it felt like a different planet. Like it's really hard to describe sometimes how different it feels and how different people live. And so that was pretty humbling too. But yeah, I guess all in all, that was my playing career. I actually sorry, not to miss out, because I ended up coaching full time with you after Europe, and then I ended up playing back in Connecticut for a half a season in the Fed.
Yeah, gotta have some good stories later about that. We'll talk about that for sure. But I guess just kind of how do you find your experiences? Like obviously you used hockey as that vehicle to move around and see places of the world and enjoy yourself. But how do you carry that into your coaching now? Like Austin mentioned, you're coaching at an academy, right? And like correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't know exactly. Maybe it's U16 or academy or something. But just kind of let everybody know exactly what you're up to now and how your experiences carried you there.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for this sport. I mean, just sport in general. It can be such an amazing vehicle, like you said, to carry you to different places. So right now, I'm coaching with an organization called the Connecticut Junior Rangers, and it's based out of Stamford, Connecticut, right near New York. It's been unbelievable. I mean, we've got an amazing facility with 2 pads of ice, and I think there's 20 plus teams in this organization. And really just, I mean, the coaching group in and of itself is, I think we have more than 25 coaches. So, I mean, even just, growing up playing hockey, working in a team environment, it's so vital in this type of environment too. It's like, just especially as a new guy coming into this organization, I think I was the only new coach this year. I was the only rookie coach this year.
Did you find yourself learning a role a little bit?
Did I find myself what, sorry?
Like learning a role in like part of the team, kind of?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like, it's really, not to sound too cliche, but it's really, we all have different strengths. And I was trying to just, play my strength as best as possible. And then, just asking other coaches for advice. That was one thing that I think was really, really key for me, was starting to just talk to other coaches and get their advice on things, and not be too confident, I guess, in a way. Obviously I'm confident in my abilities and what I can do for a team, but at the same time, this is such a new environment that I haven't coached in. It's in a new country. It's the same level that I've coached at before, but it's just the nuances of things. It's timing of things, parents, how people act.
Yeah.
There's so much that goes on. A big organization, if you don't ask questions, you can kind of get left behind pretty quickly.
For sure. Every situation and every place, I guess, is a little different, right? You got to be smart enough to know what you don't know.
Yeah. Knowledge of non-knowledge is power, as they say,
That's exactly right.
But just to kind of circle back a little bit, John, you'd mentioned you played in a couple of junior leagues, and I'm just interested. I guess you'd have the privilege or maybe the obligation of playing in multiple junior leagues at multiple levels. Can you maybe talk about what you found was some of the main differences in some of the leagues you play in, whether it have been the SIJHL back in it's kind of infantry. I guess infantry, you could say, or the PJ out in BC, or the SJ or the MJ.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's each team is so different. I mean, it was, I think I sort of started my junior career a little bit in the Manitoba Junior League, and I think when my opportunity started to run out there and an opportunity opened up in the SI, I think at the time I was 18, and I sort of took it for granted a little bit, thought it was going to be easy. And yeah, I mean, I look back and it's just, that is just simply not the case. It was even a good league back then, but it had a reputation of, if a player couldn't make it in, a Saskatchewan league or a Manitoba league, they would go to the Ontario league. And, but it really was, I mean, there's a lot of real proud people, just real good, small towns supporting these teams. And, it was physical as heck. I mean, like, you often think about the Western Canadian, like, prairies as being those tough, like, farm guy, those tough type of guys. But I remember actually my first fight, I got in the SI. I was so naive. I fought this 20-year-old. I was 18. I fought this 20-year-old named Joel Butel, and he had played, I think, in the NA or I might have been the USHL as a fighter. This guy was like a complete tank. And I just happened to get in a scrum with him in front of the net, battling in front of the net. And I was the one who initiated the fight. And he just beat the wheels off me. But to my credit, I didn't go down. I stood in there and did my best.
John Rempe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. I was the Matt Rempe back in like 2010.
Exactly.
Johnny, I got to stop you there because I looked him up, and Butel went on to play in the SP.
Yeah.
55 games, 158 PIMs, and 53 games, 105 PIMs. So you did pretty good, kid.
Attaboy.
Thank you. So there you go. Again, so naive to it, right? I was literally just trying to do anything to like get noticed. And my dad, a good small town guy growing up, had always taught me, like, you're not backing down.
Yeah.
And this is the way it is. So I wanted to play hockey, and that's what it took. And I walked out. I remember I walked out into the lobby. My parents happened to be there at that game. This was in Fort Francis, Ontario, and I walked out with my one eye was swollen shut. He had hit me on the eyebrow, and it had kind of leaked down, and my eye was swollen shut. And my mom started like kind of crying a little bit, and I was like, damn, this is like junior hockey. Here we go.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of an arrival, and but anyways, it was, I guess in regards to I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of differences. I think.
I got to cut you off one more time because this actually is very funny. So this Joe Butel played 9 games in the SI, And then I think very quickly after fighting you, we played 27 games in the U show that year and had 119 PIMs.
Wow.
So maybe you were the stepping stone to the U show for this guy.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome to Joel Butel. I basically made that guy's career.
Yeah, you gave him the opportunity.
That's right. Yeah.
Attaboy, Johnny. But anyways, you were saying, so you don't think the differences are that, I guess, wildly obvious?
Yeah, I think guys are just like, it's everyone's going all out. Everyone's going all out. Every team's got some good guys on the team. Everyone's got maybe a jerk on there. You've got such a wide range of personalities, and it's like, can you be somewhat of a chameleon? Can you be charismatic? It's that type of thing. I think I look back, and I think if I was a little more of those things back then, I think would have helped me a lot in my junior career.
That's fair. I want to ask one question before we move off of junior. So your 2011-2012 season, you played for 4 different teams in 3 leagues. Must have been a year. Can you just speak a little bit to, how you persevered through something like that, and how, there's lots of guys going through it, whether it be, not fitting in with the guys or what have you. Just speak a little bit to that year, because you literally went from Ontario over to BC back to Saskatchewan. So just maybe speak to that a little bit.
I don't know if I was in BC. Does it say BC on my EP?
It says, or no,
the
sorry,
Saskatchewan
the
League?
PJ is the Saskatchewan Junior B. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm thinking the Provincial Junior Hockey League in BC. That's my bad.
That's okay. No, I just wanted to clarify. That's all good. So, yeah, that year, I think I really, I think part of it was, being naive. And also, I think just kind of being distracted. I look back, and I think I wasn't really focused on the proper things. I was sort of focused on everything else. I was kind of focused on, is this coach going to do this for me? Is this going to happen for me? Is this going to this, instead of sort of putting my head down and kind of focusing on my own game and grinding. I think, just, I had a little bit of entitlement, really not focused on the right things. But I think I worked hard enough, and I had enough talent to sort of stick it out in a few places. But like I said, just trying to stay focused on the right things. Like if I were to be, talk to my 18-year-old self, or someone who's 18 who's listening to this, it's really, it can be very intoxicating, and it can be distracting, just trying to look at outside sources for why things aren't happening.
Yeah,
the way
comparisons.
you want them to happen. And it's like, man, it takes time, especially in the summer. The summer's a huge passing lane. And I would absolutely just tell my former self to just relax a little bit, not be so high strung, and just focus on yourself, focus on your own game, and really just have fun with it.
Embrace the grind.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's fair, because we say it all the time too. Lots of the time, the grass isn't always greener, and it's important to understand that. And just because you maybe had a bad couple days, it doesn't necessarily mean that the situation you're in is something that can't be fixed. So that there's a lot of self-reflection. That's tough to say. Like a guy, you could have came on here and said, bad coach here, bad coach there, but the fact that you kind of showed it as something that maybe it was more internal is pretty mature of you to say that. So that's right on, Johnny.
And I appreciate it. And just to add to that too is I think part of it was just trying to be on a certain team and then feel like I've arrived. For example, I signed with the Winkler Flyers in the Manitoba League that year. Whenever I think I signed that summer. Yep. And I had felt like that was it for me. I was like, you know what? I've arrived. The hard work stopped for me. I'm just going to ride this. I'm just going to ride this. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. But anyways, those couple things, I think that's what led to that.
I think a lot of guys kind of get caught. It's a good point, Johnny. You said that because, we're coaches at the junior level and stuff, and we talk to a lot of players, and, there's a lot of guys now, and we get emails. Everybody's looking to sign and looking for that, olive branch and looking for a reason. And it's like, as much as that's a good thing, at the same time, a lot of these guys think like, oh, like I'm signed, this, that. You know what? A lot of these teams now, they'll give out 30, 40 LOIs, letters of intent or whatever, and then camp comes up, and then all of a sudden 25 of them are going home.
Yeah, exactly. Or you get the classic. It doesn't happen as much anymore just with access to information, but you get you're signed, sign a piece of paper, they slip it in the top desk drawer, and hopefully you make it come camp time, right? That's just kind of how it works. Yeah. Doesn't happen as much anymore, but it's certainly something like what Carson said with the LOIs. Like, guys are coming into camp thinking they got a spot, and they're showing up besides 17 other forwards that all think they have a spot. So
yeah. Better be ready to go.
So to transition now, you mentioned you played at Minot State in the ACHA Division 1 and then for Portage College in the ACAC. Those are two avenues of college hockey that I don't think the average hockey fan might exactly know, or even if you do kind of have heard of them, you don't normally hear a lot about them. Could you just speak a little bit to what those are and maybe a little bit about your experiences there?
Yeah. So Minot State. They play in a division called ACHA, different than the NCAA, but there's starting to be actually a few teams that graduate from the ACHA onto the NCAA. Arizona State just did it with their team. I think there's a couple more looking to do that, including Minot State. Actually, I think they're looking to possibly graduate to the NCAA in the coming year. So, like I said, for those who don't really know about it, it's I would say the Division 1 and ACHA is similar to maybe the AHL type thing to the NHL. It's sort of it's technically called club hockey. There's very few scholarships, if not, I don't think there are any given out. Thankfully, I went to Minot. It was relatively cheap, so it was affordable, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed my experience there so much. I think everyone should go to college for just at least 1 year just to have the experience, that independence and networking with people. My goodness, like the connections that I made there, it's unbelievable. The connections that I've made through hockey have been great, but specifically in college, my 5 years in college have been truly like life-changing for me. And yeah, like I said, after 2 years in Minot, I transferred to a school in Alberta. It's in a real small town just north of Edmonton. And I had a lot of fun there. And like I said, met some amazing people. I don't know. I just, like I said, I think my main takeaway from those 5 years is the networking, the connections that I made, the friendships that I made, have propelled me into my professional career. I've been so grateful. I was really fortunate to play with a lot of really good hockey, not only good hockey players, but just really quality people.
I think that that's a good point you make, Johnny, and it's not even necessarily to do with hockey, right? But when you go to college, and a lot of people say this, like, whether you're playing hockey or playing a sport or even just going for whatever interests you, don't sit back and just like watch the ride. Get involved and make meaningful relationships with people, and see what other people have to offer. And that's a lot of our friendships too. Like, Johnny, I met you in college, right? And a lot of people have these meaningful relationships in their life that come from college, and it's just other people that are driven, right? Driven individuals going to school like for a reason, trying to do something with their life. So there's a lot of insight from the other people, just your peers around you in college. And I think that's a real good point to make.
It's so true. You're even when you're in class too, it's like you've got people from all kind of walks of life, but are all somewhat goal oriented at least.
Yeah.
And they're you're trying to kind of navigate these waters. I mean, even like schoolwork. The life lessons that just the schoolwork part teaches you too, where it's like, again, I go back to networking. It's like I was able to make friends with just people in class, and then you sort of you're texting each other after class, going over an assignment or homework or whatever you're doing, bouncing ideas off of each other. And it's essentially, it's very akin to a workplace where, you know, rarely in a professional workplace are you working alone. You're bouncing ideas off of people, you're doing work together, you're collaborating. It's basically a microcosm of the professional workplace.
Yep.
And it's, again, as coming in on a sports team, it is easier because you automatically sort of have, you know, 20 friends, and then you can kind of branch out from there. And I understand that, you know, college, if you're not on a sports team, it can be a little more difficult, but yeah, I would just, even if you're not on a sports team going to college, I would challenge you, just start talking to people, like flat out, just ask people questions, you know, and you will learn so much more than just what's offered in that class. Like I said, I still keep in touch with a number of people that weren't on my team in college too.
Yep.
And just ask them for advice and things like that. It's such a great experience for a young person around that age.
Yeah, the interesting too, like another interesting thing at college, like you get people, like you said, from all different walks of life, right? And what I found most interesting, I went to prep school and college, right? So I had a couple experiences where I had a similar thing where people coming from all over the world to one place, and you just you learn to kind of have patience for other perspectives too. Right? Like, you know, there's a lot of stuff in the world, like combating one side versus the other side and this and that. And there's people get real emotional, upset about certain things, but you kind of learn the patience just to deal with like other perspectives. And just by having those things, and, you know, you say with hockey, you know, on a team, okay, I got 20 friends. You know, you got 20 people with a common interest, but at the same time, on a team, you know, just as well as me and just as well as any hockey player, you don't love every one of your teammates all the time, right? It's work sometimes, and to be a good teammate and just, you know, accept all the personalities, it's you got to be a mature guy to do that, and it takes, sometimes there's immaturity that can creep in, and that's the stuff people will label it, you know, as a cancer in the room sometimes, but I think that a lot of it is personal immaturity sometimes, and people unable to handle just like different perspectives. So, you know, it's funny that we kind of just talked it and wrapped it all in one here, but it does relate back to hockey.
100%. It's so important. I mean, that's awesome, John. Thanks for sharing that with us. Just to kind of wrap up your I guess your playing career here. So you played the 1 year in Lithuania, and then the 1 year in Serbia. I'm sure, you know, the listeners at home are probably interested to know. I know this is something that always comes up. So like, what was, for like an average person, what was your deal in Lithuania? Like, were you getting paid? Is that something? Did you get accommodations? How did that work?
Yeah, so essentially it was, so those two countries are really obviously not necessarily what you call, you know, a traditional hockey market. I was part of a group called Hockey Without Borders, where essentially our task was to go there and grow the game. It's you know, those two countries, the sport was in its infancy. You know, you had kids, you know, not even with the proper equipment coming out, but super grateful and like pumped up to come play. Yeah. But I was there with, an American guy as well, Alex Martel. Shout out to Alex. And so the two of us, essentially we ran, in addition to our playing duties, we ran, basically just a random kind of practice or skill session, if you will. And it was for anyone who wanted just to come out. You know, you come out, you pay €10, and based on who was out there, we would basically design a practice on the fly. And so we would have people, you want to talk about all walks of life, we would have people, you know, 65 years old, just learning to skate. We would have, you know, 15-year-old kids who were just wizards out there. We would have, and everywhere in between. Yeah. Everywhere in between. We'd have 8-year-old kids, a goalie. We had this like 8 or 9-year-old goalie come out one time, and I ran him through a practice. And I've never played goalie before, but I think I ran him through quite a pretty heavy practice. It was like a one-on-one session, essentially. I wasn't really giving him much break looking back on it. And I think after about 45 minutes, he like skated over to his dad, and he just told him, he's like, I'm done. This poor kid, I mean, he probably got really, really good that day. He got a lot better that day, but
just put him to the paces.
I might have dashed his passion for the game. I don't know. It was a lot of fun though. Like, it was so strange being in a place that hockey wasn't like second nature to everyone. Like, you'd come to the rink and there was just little weird things. Like, for example, some dressing rooms wouldn't have the padded floors, so you had to wear your skate guards in the dressing room, and then you'd take them off right as you got to the ice. And there's little things like, the Zamboni driver didn't know to lift the blade of the Zamboni as he got off the ice, so he would grind it on the concrete. And it's like these little things that you talk about taking things for granted. Oh my gosh, like it was really, like I said, humbling and really neat to see this sport in its infancy in a different country. And all the people were super welcoming to us too. It was a great experience.
Must be a sense of gratitude too, because like just going there and trying to work with what you got and just understanding like the wealth of knowledge that is in North America when it comes to hockey, and then going over there and trying to translate all that stuff that and simplify it and have them understand and learn at a proper pace. Like, it's just that's a totally different wild experience, and that's interesting, Johnny, and it's cool that you've done that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, I'm so grateful that I did it for a little while. It was, you kind of referenced it, Austin. We weren't getting paid much. It was mostly, we had our living covered and we had some food covered. And then, a very, very small bit of spending cash. And then I guess this is kind of a funny story too. I ended up getting so kind of financially strapped near the end of the year in Lithuania that one of the sort of booster people that hung around our team ended up giving me a job, and my job was literally going to this warehouse and power washing lifts, like those power lifts that people use for construction.
Yeah.
So and I would bus there in the morning. It was about 45 to an hour bus. I would get there. I would power wash these things. There's mud all over. I'm in like a full, like, those suits that like fishermen wear when they're out at sea.
Yeah.
Like
the full rubber suit.
Just picture a 6'4" guy, like absolutely decked out in full rubber. Like no electricity was getting to me at all. I with the goggles on, everything. I had my music absolutely blasting in my earbuds because the power washer was so loud that I was so bored that I wanted music, so I had to turn it up to full volume. Anyways, I'm getting a little off script here, but that was really humbling. Bus in the morning for an hour, worked for about 5 hours, bus to the restaurant where I had a food voucher at, eat, go back home, practice at I think our practices were 10:45 p.m. And then
10:45 p.m. Are you on a professional hockey team or a junior or a junior C?
That was the top team in the city. It was our team, but there was only one rink in town, so from the hours of 4 to 10 o'clock was the young guys going on.
Well, I guess that makes sense too, right? Because if they're not getting paid, lots of those guys are probably working during the day, right? So It makes sense that your practices are at night, I guess, because I was going to suggest why aren't you practicing in the morning, but if those guys got to work during the day, I guess they got to work during the day.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not as much. Even when I was in Denmark and Sweden, a lot of those guys had day jobs. So, I mean, it was pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's good to reference. Like, I mean, you say that you didn't get paid a lot, but just in your experiences and just the way you're talking about it now so fondly, it's very obvious that this is something that that you enjoyed, and that I guarantee you, if I asked you if you wanted to do it again, from the sounds of it, you probably want to, right? So I think a lot of people get lost in what am I necessarily going to make at this, or what's the end goal? When again, like we said, just enjoy the ride and
it's who you become.
Exactly, right? And that's something that you can hold on. Like, how many people can say they played pro hockey in Lithuania?
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true.
How many people can say that they've baseball swing slashed a guy in Lithuania?
I wasn't bringing that one up.
my close buddies in our group chat, they just put that video in our group again. I had to relive that again.
I'm sorry, Johnny. I had to bring it up. It's too good. Listen, you're an unbelievable guy, and you can tell it obviously by talking to you here. But that's just we all lose our cool. Hey, I remember your fight in Portage too. Just giving it to that guy in front of our bench and give it to him, Johnny. I was friggin' going to town, leaning over the bench. But I mean, while we're kind of on that side, how was the Fed? What was that like, buddy?
Before we wrap things up, we got to give us one Fed story.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, God, it was like, I guess too, your listeners might be interested to know like how it came about. We were working together, Cars, full time in Ontario, in Fort Erie, and I ended up getting laid off from there, and I was just looking for an opportunity in the States at the time. And the quickest way I knew how was just to get onto a hockey team. And then, just like we referenced earlier in this podcast, is just start making connections with teammates. Yeah. So I happened to email, I think, 3 or so Federal Hockey League teams, and Danbury got back to me. I think maybe one other one got back to me, but I went down to Danbury, Connecticut, and it ended up leading me to a job. But in the meantime, I spent, I think, 3.5 or 4 months from January to April or so in Danbury, Connecticut, and I loved it. We got treated quite well at a great facility. The fan support was unbelievable. I mean, these people are like insanely passionate. Like it's like a sort of a blue collar type small town, which Connecticut in general isn't necessarily known for, but this town in particular was. Nice. I'm trying to think of some crazy. I mean, it's like there really is. It's not exactly as jungle as it used to be, but there really is still that, fever of people want to see like gladiators fight. It's you can understand why like the Colosseum and that type of thing was what it was back then. Is like people are very much entertained by a physical sport. Like we would go up to Watertown, New York, and play the Watertown Wolves, and like I'm generally a pretty easygoing guy. I ended up getting a penalty one time, and these people were just like screaming at me, absolutely screaming at me, and I was like, I just got like a 2-minute penalty for, I don't even know, roughing after the whistle or something. And I was like, and they were just screaming. I don't even know what the heck they were saying to me. And I was like, this is like one of the only environments where it's acceptable for someone to like completely verbally abuse someone. Not that I'm like complaining. Not that I'm complaining. Like it comes with the territory. I'm not upset about it at all. But it was kind of just like fascinating to me, where it felt like we were like just so much just entertainment for people. We were almost like characters on a show. Yeah. And it was like,
well, that's a good point, actually, man.
Be entertained. Yeah.
That's a good point, because were you there? You weren't in Danbury when Diamond Hands, like Amesbury, were you?
No, I missed him by like a half season.
Ah, too bad. But we got to get him on the podcast, because that's an interesting character right there. That's playing in Danbury. So I wasn't sure if you had crossed paths with him, but that'd be interesting.
And also, you mentioned that Danbury has nice facilities. I mean, Brody True, he's kind of popular with the kids. He does a lot. He plays for the NA3 team in Danbury, and that's out of the same rink. And it does seem like Danbury has quite the facility there for their Null team and their NA3 team, and then of course the Fed team.
Yeah,
so
it's a good spot. Our dressing room, even the junior dressing rooms, are pretty solid too. Yeah. Like we've got some good stuff going there. yeah, I won't get into anything negative. I don't want to say anything negative, even though I do have a couple things I would say about it, but I won't get into that. But it was overall, I would say, a positive experience. I'm trying to think of anything like goofy that happened where it was that in regards to teammates and things like that, though, in the Fed, like it was such a mixed bag of, we had guys that had full-time jobs in New York City working in, on Wall Street and things like that. And then would come, drive up to Danbury an hour and play in like the roughest semi-pro league, and it's like, and then we'd have guys, full-time there making like $150 a week, like living in a hotel. That's actually one fun thing that we did was our owners of the team owned a hotel, so we all lived in a hotel. We each had our own room, and it was like a college dorm. It was really a lot of fun.
That's actually not bad when you compare it to other Fed stories where it's like 9 guys in a two bedroom, 1 bathroom house. So that's not bad at all.
Yeah, it was great, and I'm so grateful for the experience because it was a lot of fun. That league. It's gone a lot faster, I think, in the last maybe decade or so, and it's it really is a lot of fun to play. But it was just the perfect amount for me. I needed a few months and ended up finding some good connections, and I'm happy that I moved on from there into my new role.
Yeah, right. You're still there. You're still in the area working, so that's awesome, man. That just goes to show you the connections. Whatever league, doesn't matter. You make connections, you meet good people, you are a good guy, and doors open for you. So thanks for coming on, Johnny.
Yeah, John.
For sure, boys. Thank you so much. I appreciate being able to share, and it's an honor being on with the boys.
Right on. Thanks again, John, and have a great rest of your season.
Thanks, boys.
All right, buddy.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank John for coming on. That was an awesome interview. Really gives that perspective, right? Because lots of people are going to, they're not going to have, it's great. You play for one junior team for 3 years and everything's fantastic. Or, you play and then, right to college. Right to this. That's what you're supposed to do. It's really nice to get some perspective from somebody who did have to battle a little bit and who did have to self-reflect a little bit to kind of get to the spot where they're ultimately happy with things now.
Yeah, it's not often you hear a guy reflect on his career and say, oh, you were in 4 spots in 1 year, what happened? It's like, oh, well, this guy came in and this guy got dropped down from the dub and, this guy came from wherever. You hear all the excuses in the book. But Johnny's like,
put me on the power
you know what,
play.
I think I had a couple of my own shortcomings to fix. So you know what, that's just who he is, though. That's who Johnny is, and that's, as a coach, like, teaching young men, that's the kind of guy you want, teaching them accountability and those kind of things. And Johnny's always been that kind of guy. So great to hear from him. And obviously you guys can go back and, if you didn't already, listen to that and check that out because it's a good chat.
Absolutely. So as we get into this week's kind of second half, it's kind of we were going to kind of frame this as soft white underbelly, but there's a website that has an article feature that I'm a pretty big fan of. It's called The Death Pool, and it talks about kind of the same thing that we do on a week-to-week basis, just about some things that are going on in junior hockey that are a little bit shady. And they always have a worst junior team in North America contest every year. And this year, rather than emailing in ballots, they encourage people to share it on social media. So our thought was, this is great. We're just going to chat about all the people that put their names on the ballots, but unfortunately people don't really feel like outing themselves as certain team haters. So we'll have to see next week. They apparently are going to publish the top 4 nominees, so we will definitely chat about those 4 nominees next week.
Yeah, you'll have to stay tuned for the 4 worst junior teams in North America nominees next week.
But with that being said, we're going to chat about there's been a lot of talk, or not a lot of talk, but a lot of development in the world of junior hockey in North America, whether it's the BCHL kind of breaking off and now with one of the main reasons being to get European players.
Yep.
You see some of the unsanctioned leagues, that being one of their big plays is trying to get and recruit European players, and it kind of falls by the wayside with the CJHL. Like, unless you were a Ukrainian in the last couple of years, you're not allowed to play in the CJHL, and the USHL is a little bit different in how it works as well. So we're going to chat about the different options you have in North America, and then Carson, who has a little bit of expertise, or I guess some experience in Europe, can
little
chat
bit of
about
knowledge.
your options over there as well, and maybe not to get into something that ends up kind of trapping you a little bit. So let's run through it quickly. There are a couple leagues in the States that do allow European players, and then obviously the BCHL and going to be the AJHL here shortly to allow European players in Canada. There's also the unsanctioned leagues in Canada, but we felt like we've been talking about them a little bit too much, so we're gonna let them sit.
They'll speak for themselves for now.
Yes. So with that being said, so we have the NAHL, where right now there's a decent amount of European players. There's a couple in the top 10 in scoring. One couple from Sweden, Russia. There's actually a Japanese. That's not a European guy. Japanese guy is in there as well. Belarus, and then you have the
International
BCHL
players, we'll call them.
Sure, international players. BCHL, they've tried to push for European international players. It hasn't worked great so far, like we've seen, like they wanted, but again, they're still in their infancy in terms of trying to recruit those European players. But the biggest spot where you see, I guess, an influx in European players has got to be the USPHL Premier.
Yeah.
If we look even right now, like in the top 10 in scoring in that entire league, there's 7 Europeans. Also, the 11th is also a European, and it's a wide variety. It's not just like Scandinavia or whatever. It's Sweden, Belarus, Finland, Russia, Belarus, and then Czech Republic are the countries. So like
mixed bag
everywhere you could go. And we kind of looked up a couple of these players here, and we're gonna start by talking about Noak Persson here. Person, probably not pronouncing that right. Persson. He's the current. Yeah, my mistake. He's the current leader in points in the USPHL Premier Division, plays for Fresno, and having a great year. 147 points in 37 games. That's going to be good anywhere you're at.
Close to Carson Baptiste number.
Yeah. But you brought up, you kind of asked, hey, where did this guy play in Europe? So
yeah,
pretty much has only played in either U20 or U18. So the U18 National, and then the J18 region, and then J20 Super Elite. So
okay, Super Elite. You know what? So that's interesting, right? In Sweden specifically, I spent a little time there. The J20 and J18, like regional and stuff, and that stuff's normally not the top quality, the highest quality of hockey. A lot of your good junior players over there will already be playing men's hockey, Division 2 or even Division 3 at that rate. That's kind of what happens there. Super Elite, it's different. They kind of are teams that are like mostly affiliated with the SHL.
Okay.
And they get opportunities to kind of play sometimes with the SHL teams if they're playing very well in Super Elite. How many games did he play in Super Elite?
He played 22 games, had 2 goals, 4 assists.
Not bad. So
not terrible.
Pretty good. And that's a decent junior league over there in Sweden. But very surprised, that he would leave that opportunity to come to the USPHL. Now, I wonder, this is where we were talking a little bit earlier, where if that becomes more, is the kid looking for just like an opportunity, an experience to come play in the States, or did somebody sell this kid on a bill of goods that this is going to be better for his development? Now, I wouldn't think that that's the case, as, obviously if he's playing a junior league where he got 6 points and then comes and gets 147 points in 31 games, there's a large discrepancy.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
And you could look at it actually through his entire career here. Like I think if you've kind of explained it to me a little bit, there's the programs in Sweden, and then they have their different teams. So like in 2019-2020, he played for J18 Elite, J18 Allsvenskan, and then J20 Super Elite. And that's all within the same program, correct?
Likely. Is it like all...
It's all Skellefteå. There you go.
Yeah. So,
I'm going to get absolutely roasted on these pronunciations.
I'm probably fucking not even doing it great either. But anyway, yeah. So that makes sense. I mean, probably all within the same year. Yeah. And like they're similar. So like they'll be, that one team will feed the next, which will feed the next, which will feed the next. So I mean, that's cool. Obviously bounced up and down between the two. And you see that a lot with a lot of European players. They'll play on 3-4 different teams because it's just different over there. They don't have the same volume. And they have like players that are eligible to play for multiple squads, and it's not quite in Canada it's not quite like in Canada and the USA where you're pretty much married to the one squad that you sign with, right? And the reason for that, like you're saying, because it's all one organization, okay, because he's of age and eligible to play for, say, this team, then he can, right? It's much like in college where I got scratched the one weekend and was able to play some club hockey against no one absolutely lit it up, just gonna say.
No big deal.
Hey, CHAD2 lit it up.
Yeah, I guess just to piggyback on your point a little bit. So, and then in the next year, 2020, 2021, played for, again, that J18 regional, then J20 national. Then 2021, 2022, played the whole season J20 national. And then 2022, 2023, started the year J20 national, and then halfway through the season went over and played for Fresno. So the question kind of becomes then, this is looking a little bit like it was maybe sold a false bill of goods by a scout somewhere.
You'd certainly think so, because who if that kid actually wants to go somewhere in hockey, that is just it's not even a lateral move. It's just like a jump down. It's like going down the rung by about 4 steps.
Unfortunately, because again, maybe an average person would look at this and say, okay, well, he had, at Super Elite 6 and 22, and then at J20 National he's putting up like half a point, quarter of a point a game, and then he immediately goes to the Prem and is putting up. He had 93 and 27 the first half of the second half of that season he went. Yeah. So that's over 3 points a game. Yeah. And then he has 147 and 37. Like, you'd be like, oh, he just obviously figured it out. And this is a very much a case of this player's just too good for this league.
Yeah, he shouldn't be there. And maybe he's just enjoying it, and that's the case too. That happens too. So for these European players, some of them, if they figure they don't want to, grind it out and try and make it to the highest level anymore, there's these options to come play in these unsanctioned leagues because, Hockey Canada and USA Hockey often have some parameters around bringing Europeans over because in the IIHF, they have agreements on trying to develop their own players, or, there's certain transfer card rules when players want to, move countries or whatever it may be, right? So they try and have parameters around that, but then again, you have your unsanctioned leagues, much like the GMHL in Canada and USPHL in the States, that say fuck that noise, we're gonna do what we want, and so it's the BCHL now. But either way, it's just, man, oftentimes there's no reason. Like, okay, if you're a good enough player in Europe, very good chance you're playing men's hockey already, or the high level junior, and coming to North America for a development move, the only time I would think that makes sense is if you're coming to the BCHL or the NAL or the CHL, which is through a European draft or whatever, or international draft. And those might, the very rare instances. Other than that, Europe's come a long way in development, and there's great ways to develop still there.
Well, you even see now, like, to talk about that upper echelon, like, for the longest time, the Czech Republic, the best Czechia players would always be in the CHL.
Yeah.
And now you see that movement towards trying to keep them home, to try to develop them at home. Exactly. Play with the Augs, play with, who else is there?
Dvorak.
Radic. I'm trying to think who they're
Peter Bondra play in that league or something.
Yeah, I want to look up who their U20 coach is. I think it's Yuri Fisher. I think that's who it is.
Heart attack on the bench.
Good player. Really, when he played for the Wings, kid was nasty.
Yeah.
I just want to look it up just to see who their head coach is, because again, that's now you've seen like those guys. Oh, so yeah, they have they have Plekanec helping them out. They have Marek Zidličky helping them out. So like obviously they have these guys that are trying to keep those Czech good players at home, and it's helped, right? Like you look at the Czech Republic team now, like they've done well, silver medal at the World Juniors last year. So very obviously they're making some strides, because for a long time there, the Czech Republic, there's always been like that big six, whether it be, Canada, USA, Sweden, Finland, Czech Republic, Russia. For a long time there, Czech Republic kind of fell out of that big six. It was kind of just like an afterthought.
Slovakia, Belarus, like just like the best of the rest would just kind of fill that hole.
Pretty much. So now it's nice to see them coming back into that.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, now if we want to move off of Nowak, we then have the next best player, or the next, I guess, leader in points. He plays for Potomac. It's Siemon Marchenko, and he's from Belarus.
Nice.
So again, just to kind of bring him up, it looked like he played for 2020, 21, 2021, 2022, and 2022, 2023, all for like the Team Belarus program, like the U18 and U17 programs.
Oh, wow.
Pretty decent numbers, like 24 points in 48 games in the U17, 46 points in 50 games for the U18, and then 17 and 16 before, again, probably got lured by the same guy that lured this other guy, honestly.
Well, okay, to be fair, I just thought of this.
Yep.
If they want to go play, like, say, D3 or something, and, like, just college hockey.
Yep.
We did talk about it last time. Okay, go put up 130 points or whatever in the USP, and you know what? There's probably a good chance they'll still get an opportunity. I don't think that, like, it almost feels like waving the white flag and just surrendering at that point. Just, okay, I'll go just light it up here, and then, you know, whoever will take me at that level. But I mean, it just doesn't seem like, you know, you're striving for the top level still if you're doing that. It just feels like you're settling to light it up.
Yeah, almost a little bit, eh? Like, it's almost...
And not for those kids. It's probably not their, you know, it's probably not their attitude. Like, oh, I'm just gonna, you know, like, we don't know the discussions they're having with people. It's just, it's bizarre to see, you know, these kids coming from decent programs and decent places and coming, not to say that Potomac or Fresno's not a decent place, but the USPHL, just, it's regarded, you know, how it's regarded in, as it's where it's tiered, you know, in junior hockey in North America, and, you know, obviously they're the points versus where they were before. It's clear.
It almost seems like, if you want to equate it to something, it's like, you know, Sulicote has a not a reputation, but lots of times when this happens in a lot of the trade professions, whether it be like civil servants, so whether it be like police officers or nurses or doctors, a lot of the times when you're not the top of your class, normally what you have to do is you have to go be a police officer in Sulicote for 2 years, or you have to go be a nurse at the Meniowan Health Center for 2 years, and then you can go back and work in Toronto, and then you can go back and work where you want to work, right? And that kind of seems like, okay, you're playing in Europe, you're not as good as the best guys, but you're good enough to play college in the States. If you want to play D3 in the States, you can. Yeah. The only thing is you got to go over there and put up 100 points in the USPHL.
And then you can go.
Because, like, honestly, if I'm looking
proof of concept,
if I'm looking at these guys, so Siamon Marchenko, he had this half a year in 2022, 2023 for Potomac, and then this year 112 and 41.
Wow.
Then you have, okay, so this guy doesn't count because he's lived in the States since he was 15. Okay. This guy from Russia also. But then, okay, the next guy from Sweden, Emil Luv, exactly the same direction as those last two guys. They played in Sweden and then had half a season in Fresno where he put up 87 and 40 games. And then this year he's got 103 and 40. Exactly the same. And then you move over to Oliver Berlin Soderstrom. Exactly the same. Now, last year he put up 62 and 20 games and then 97 and 39 games. Yeah. It's like, and look at this, another big guy from Belarus. Point a game last year for half a season. Now he's got 93 and 42. And then, this guy doesn't fit that because he's dual citizenship. But very, very, like, you're seeing it right here. Like, that is obviously something has told these players that that's what you're supposed to do. You want to play college hockey in the States, and who knows? That's another thing that, do they know it's not D1?
Yeah.
Who's to say?
Yeah.
Right?
What's college hockey to them? Because, like, their college, too, is entirely different. It's paid for, it's funded. Like, they don't have the same kind of opportunities. That's why a lot of them will play men's hockey, too, because it's just, like, they don't have the college hockey over there. There are a few teams. I got to look that up, and maybe that's something we can talk about on the episode one day is, the college system in Europe and exactly how that looks, because I know there are teams. I just don't know exactly how it works, and I'd like to learn more about it. But definitely not nearly as much opportunity over there as there is in the States. So that could be an avenue, or it could be an angle they're taking, just to be fair to them. But even still, I think there's guys that play a couple games in men's league over there, or the men's like divisions, and then they come play NCAA D3 and stuff like that. So I mean, you don't have to do it. It's not necessary.
Yeah, I mean, that's super interesting, and I think I want to do a little bit more of a deep dive on this when I get a chance, just because how similar this is. Like it's crazy how every single these 6 of the top 10 scorers in the USPHL Premier have almost the exact same trajectory, coming from these junior leagues in Europe, whether it be, well, from the looks of it, Belarus or Sweden. So obviously these guys are getting. You got to check the plane tickets on the USPHL scouts going over to to Belarus and
Check
Sweden.
their passport.
Yeah, because those are the guys. They're going to Sweden. They love. How did you say it? Skellefteå. They love that place because that's where this Oliver Berlin Sostrom came from. Yeah. And this team Belarus, they've gotten 2 guys out of that program, and then 3 guys out of this Skellefteå program. Yeah. So interesting, very interesting.
That's cool. We hope you guys find that as interesting as we did, but we just want to kind of banter about that quickly.
Yeah, just kind of chat. I know our talk with Johnny went a little bit long, so it was interesting. I know that we discussed last time about talking about advisors and stuff, but I'd like to hopefully get into that maybe next week.
Yeah, we'll get one of my buddies and someone we know that does some advising. Like, obviously I've done some of it just with Pursuit and stuff, but my perspective is one perspective. I want to hear what other guys are doing, and maybe even another company. Just see what other guys what they're talking to their players about, and just necessarily the things that they have to offer in their experiences, and just how they go about. A lot of people ask me. I had a father come up to me. We were in Wisconsin this past weekend, and I had a dad come up to me and say, "Hey, my son's playing in Cincinnati. We were talking to an advisor. This is the price they gave me. What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I think that's a lot of money." And I told him why I thought so. But everybody offers something different, and if you think your price or whatever is justified, or whatever you can offer a player, I mean, anybody can justify their business and obviously what they're doing. But it'll be interesting just to hear some perspectives and what people are actually doing at the advising level for players, because it's kind of a big question mark for a lot of parents.
Yeah, I'm super interested about that kind of stuff. I think it's really important, and honestly can if you make the wrong choice there, it can honestly have drastic effects on you as a player.
Certainly, because if you have someone that's their reputation, and the one thing I'm not going to say, actually. I'm not going to caution anybody. I'm just going to let things speak for themselves. And hopefully we'll get someone else on here to talk about it. But, yeah, it's just you definitely just want to be asking a lot of people. I think I mentioned it last time. Talk to someone you know, someone that's been in the game a long time, that just knows lots of people and has been through it, seen guys do well, seeing guys do not so well, seeing guys just have to battle. There's bunch of different things, and experience kind of is the king, right? When guys have done it and have a track record and things to show for it. So
right on. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Pursuit Hockey Discussion. For Carson Johnstone, I am Austin Hoey, and we hope you enjoy. We'll see you next week.